Hello, welcome to a new episode of Rediscovered Movies. I'm your host, Nomfanelo Malloy. So today I have a special guest. She's a writer, director, and editor from Quebec, and she was previously a guest in the episode for I'm Your Man, which is available. So please welcome Corinne Viau.
Hi, I'm so happy to be there again.
Yes, it's great to see you again at the podcast. So let's go on with today's film. So we're going to be talking about The Long Kiss Goodnight, which is a 1996 action thriller that's directed by Renny Harlin, who's known for directing films such as Die Hard 2 and Cliffhanger. The script was written by Shane Black, who's known for doing films such as The Nice Guys, The Predator, and a bunch of 90s, 2000s action films. So the film stars Geena Davis and Samuel Jackson. So essentially the plot, it focuses on Samantha Kane, played by Geena Davis. So she lives in Honesdale, Pennsylvania with her daughter Caitlin and her boyfriend Hal. Has a has a job as a teacher and basically has a suburban life. But when she gets into a car accident, she begins to remember small parts of her previous life as a CIA assassin. Her old chums in the chapter are now out to kill her, so she enlists the help of a cheap private investigator named Mitch, played by Samuel Jackson. And as Samantha remembers more and more of her previous life, she becomes deadlier and more resourceful while uncovering a dark conspiracy. So the film was released in theaters on October 11th, 1996. It opened at number 3 with over 9 million. It was beaten by films such as The Ghost in the Darkness and The First Wives Club. It made $89.4 million during its theatrical release, according to Box Office Mojo, but on Wikipedia it says it made 95.5 million. So on Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 68% critic score. So with the consensus, they say smart, sharp-witted, and fueled by enjoyably over-the-top action. The Long Kiss Goodnight makes up impact what it lacks in consistent aim. The audience, however, gave it 70%. The film is available to stream on Netflix and is on VOD, so check your local provider. All right, we could go on to first discovery. So, Corinne, do you want to start?
So basically, I have to say, I've never heard of the movie before you told me about it. But I was really intrigued by the synopsis. I like the concept of amnesia, but sometimes it's quite overrated. So I was really curious of the way it would be brought on screen. So that was basically the first thing I really thought about. And then I do have to say, movies before 2000, my expectations are usually not that high because, first of all, the evolution of technology and everything related to special effects, but also I feel like sometimes the dialogue are not as relatable anymore because, society is not as misogynistic as before, or, there's a lot of stuff that changed. So sometimes I feel those scripts become more difficult to watch sometimes. So that was my first thinking there when I saw 1996. But yeah, those were my expectations there.
Oh wow, that's awesome. Yeah, like for me though, like I think I had the VHS tape of it growing up, so I don't remember my initial thoughts because I was young at the time. But I do remember, yeah, like I enjoyed it like mainly for the action scenes. It was nice to see, yeah, like Samuel Jackson, in that sort of role, and also too with Geena Davis because it seemed like it's kind of rare at the time for like a female to be the lead for a action film, and it's nice, yeah, we're seeing more of it now, but yeah, back then I imagine it was such a big deal at the time. And I like how like the movie is kind of like self-aware of it with the material because everyone knows what they're getting into. And I appreciate, yeah, like it's a very like solid action film with a character that's not a Mary Sue type, like with a lot of mainstream films and movies of today, unfortunately. But
Yep.
but yeah, it's quite enjoyable to watch. And yeah, obviously, yeah, like some stuff don't age well, but other than that, it's like a fun, good time sort of
Yeah,
movie.
we need to look at it in the context of the time and how society was then. But of course, now we look at with today's lens, and we need to evaluate if it needs to be rediscovered or not.
Absolutely, because I was actually kind of surprised that this movie didn't do well at the time of its theatrical release. Like, probably, again, people were not ready for a female-led action film. Again, I don't know. There could be, like, reasons behind that. But yeah, like, it seemed like this movie got a cult following afterwards, which is fascinating. So we could go on to the highlights section, so essentially what we liked about the film. I guess like the first aspect is Christmas, because this really is the kind of unconventional Christmas movie similar to Die Hard, which keeps getting debated whether or not it's a Christmas film. Like, I'm on the side that it is a Christmas film because it takes place during Christmas time.
I
And
have to agree on that. It's like if
yeah.
it happens during Christmas, I feel like it's kind of a Christmas movie. But in my
Mm-hmm.
head, when you say Christmas movie, the first things that comes to mind is like the Hallmark type of movies. So at the same time, I'm torn. I feel the same way.
Exactly, yeah, because I would say like for those are kind of tired seeing the more like conventional Christmas films like It's a Wonderful Life or Charlie Brown or something to that effect. At least with this one, it gives you something to look forward to that then with those typical holiday films.
Yeah, I have to say, like, I don't know if you remember that exact scene, but when Charlie is driving towards the end of the movie, and there's like the radio, I don't remember going on, and it's like, oh, Christmas, it's Christmas today. And I was just like, oh, I totally forgot about that. This is not a normal Christmas.
Absolutely, yeah. And yeah, speaking of Charlie, like I say I like how like for the most part we kind of learn what she's learning at the same time in terms of figuring out like her identity. I mean, yes, like I guess as the audience we know that yeah, like it's example with Mr. Waldman played by Brian Cox, he's not the bad guy, and with Mr. Perkins' plot with the whole Operation Honeymoon thing. So it's kind of nice that we get to learn what she's learning at the same time because it kind of like keeps like the thriller aspect of the film in check.
Yeah, I have to say, like, as I said, in my expectation, I was a bit worried on how they were going to follow that trope of losing memory. But I feel like in this movie, it was pretty well done because it was not like some kind of info dump right at the beginning, and then we just move on and forget that she lose her memory. It was really inherent to the movie and to the plot going on, and it was like every discovery was like, oh, she lost her memory, but you know it's still there. It's from the beginning to the end. It's not just a random thing to start the movie with. So I felt like it was well done there. One particular scene that struck to mind is when she gets to the cottage, or I don't know, the farm, and she meets Daedalus, and she
Mm-hmm.
believes he's her ex-lover because she knows how he pees. But it's just because she studied him to kill him, you know? So that was a good moment. I feel like the memory trope was well done in this movie, so I really enjoyed that.
Absolutely, because it kind of like brought me similarities to the Bourne Identity with Matt Damon as Jason Bourne because with that movie like he's trying to figure out like his past because he was left for dead similar to Charlie in this movie, and it was kind of interesting like for both characters like they don't really like know their abilities, but like when like we see like you know certain clues, like for example this film like the postcard like about Luke or like the note from Waldman or the rifle in her suitcase like that's when like it sort of kind of like activates her skills as an assassin is kind of like interesting to see that throughout the film. Like, for instance, there's this scene like when she's chopping vegetables in the kitchen with her daughter and boyfriend. It's hilarious. Like she says, chefs do that. and
Yeah.
they look very concerned, like when she throws a knife towards a tomato on the cupboard. So
I really like that it became like a running gag because she kept saying that through the film. Like I think she said it again towards the end or something. I just really enjoyed that.
absolutely, yeah. And I would say too, like with the car accident scene near the beginning, that's pretty much like her first attempt that we see like of her skills when she kills the deer,
Yeah.
because that was something like I would say out of her character, because she seemed like the very nice, like typical like housewife of a loving family and so forth. And
Yeah. Although I do have to say the cutting scene with the vegetables, that's not how you cut a pepper.
yeah.
That is absolutely not how you cut a pepper. I will argue on that.
Yeah. But I mean, that's how she does it, so
That's what chefs do, I guess.
exactly. You know, whatever works works, I suppose.
I suppose so, but yeah, it's something that we can talk about maybe a little further. But I really enjoyed the humor, but at the same time, it's kind of a self-conscious humor, even with the special effect, I guess. Maybe not. Maybe it's just me, my interpretation in modern times. But I feel like they were self-conscious even with their special effect. So
hmm
sometimes I feel like it was really funny, but I'm not exactly sure if it was intended or not to be funny. So I have to say, like, I have kind of a confused opinion on this movie because of that. I don't take it seriously. If I take
hmm
it seriously as a movie, it's not a great movie to me. But if I look at it with, just a light tone, just, I'm expecting to laugh at it a little bit, well, then
hmm
it's a good movie to watch just for fun and laughs. But yeah.
Because I think though they were trying to go for a more like serious tone, like as an action thriller, but I think at the same time, like it kind of wants to be very like cheesy, like with the dialogue and the
Yeah.
storyline. So yeah, maybe there's a bit of like tonal like shifts throughout the film, which is kind of conflicting. But at least like for me, it's not like too
Yeah,
obvious.
it's not too obvious. It's not like a
hmm
movie when you watch it, you're like, what the fuck am I watching? And it's just for laughs. But it's kind of in the middle, and that's also why I'm wondering and I'm kind of torn between, the opinion of a serious movie and the opinion for like just for laughs movie. So yeah, I'm just in between there. But I have to say though, I really like the characterization of the characters.
Yeah.
Mostly, like you said, Samantha slash Charlie. We could see really I don't know. I kind of enjoyed it, but at the same time, I feel like it's such a black or white depiction of feminism and how a woman should be. It's like either she's the kind housewife or she's like the blonde, I don't know, killer who smokes and sleeps with a strange man in a motel. I'm like, there's the it's a movie. You don't and the main subject is not really feminism. So
Yeah.
they didn't have necessarily this time on screen to explore what it is to be a woman and etc. But I think they
hmm
did a good try at trying to explore it, but maybe it was too intense on both sides of, the balance there. But I did enjoy how she kind of went back and forth between Samantha's persona and Charlie's persona and kind of tried to find a middle ground. Then in the end, she's not the same as before. There was a
hmm
change, but she's trying. So, it's kind of really interesting to see the portrayal of women through Charlie. That was a good point for me in the movie. And then I have to say, I really like Waldman too, but he got killed pretty quickly. Like
Yeah.
when we saw him in the water, I was like, oh fuck, seriously, that was like my main character for a second there. And
hmm
then I have to say also the bad guy, Timothy, that I don't know. I feel like he was a bit comical in some way, but at the same time I enjoyed it. So it was not like I don't know. I like how he had some hesitation when he realized that Caitlin was his daughter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I like how it didn't stop him. Because I
Mm-hmm.
feel like in real life, if you've never met your child, you don't consider this child your own.
Yeah.
It wouldn't stop a mean guy to do mean things. It would just be like a slight hesitation, exactly how it was portrayed with Timothy's character. I found like in movies, this, I don't know, obsession with the bloodline is sometimes truly just ridiculous. So I really enjoyed that they didn't go towards that with Timothy's character, and there
Yeah.
was just a slight confusion for a moment. That was also an interesting character point in the story.
Yeah, because he is quite charming, like as
Yeah.
the bad guy. Like he is like a henchman at the end of the day, so he is going to follow orders. But yeah, I like how like in ways he tries to use his charm to get like what he wants. Like for example, like when he's like torturing the guy like at the abandoned hangar, and also to like when like with that train sequence, like when he's like flirting with Samantha at the bar,
Mhm.
realizes that oh that she doesn't completely like remember him, so
Yeah.
yeah, like he's quite, the charismatic bad guy in this
Yeah,
movie.
he played the charmer, and I have to say he played it well. Like honestly, that was good. That was on point. And like I have to say, the first scene when we saw Timothy, that was, I don't know, kind of funny and hot at the same time. I was really confused.
Yeah, for instance, yeah. And I have more thoughts like with that whole subplot with Operation Honeymoon because I had issues with that. I'll go in that next category, but
Yeah.
yeah, like for the most part, I think the bad guys were pretty convincing.
Yeah, I have to say, like the idea of like I think it was Perkins, right? This
Mm-hmm.
the yeah, okay. So with Operation Honeymoon, what I like is like it was not, the usual conspiracy of like, oh, I'm gonna try to kill the president to take his place or something like that. It was like there was a little bit more thoughts into it. So
Mm-hmm.
I have to say for that, I want to give it credit.
Yeah.
It was not perfect, it's still the same kind of, 90s 2000 trope of thrillers where it's like, but it was still better than most movies in that trope to me. So I
Mm-hmm.
kind of enjoyed it. And also, I really enjoyed some quotes in this movie that felt kind of badass.
Oh yeah.
Like I remember at the end, Charlie was just looking at Timothy, the mean guy. And she was like, "You're gonna die screaming, and I'm gonna watch. Am I telling the truth?" That
Mm-hmm.
was mind blowing because,
Yeah.
this is the thing with Timothy. He's always saying, "Oh, I can see if someone is lying. I can see if someone is lying." And then
Mm-hmm.
he knows she is not lying, and she makes it
Yeah.
happen. That
Mm-hmm.
was a badass moment. Really enjoyed it. And,
Mm-hmm.
it's just, it felt nice to see that change in Charlie's character. Well, Samantha slash Charlie, to see her suddenly being like more free with her speech, being
Yes.
able to say "die, motherfucker," that's kind of a
Yeah.
different vibe.
Mm-hmm.
So enjoy that. And there was one really sexual joke that I enjoyed. So I will share it with you right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's during the standoff at the end between Timothy and Charlie. And he
Oh
takes out
yeah,
a blade. And she says, "Oh, honey, only 4 inches." And he responds, "Oh, don't worry, you'll feel me."
yeah. Yeah, that was hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah, I
and
enjoyed it.
and she certainly did. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. He died screaming, motherfucker.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I also loved like to piggyback like the one-liners such as chefs do that like when she's in the kitchen or when she tells Caitlin life is pain, get
Oh,
used to
Lord.
it. And then the daughter like repeats that to her like towards the end when she's like nearly dying at the truck. And I love how Timothy like when the one of the henchmen tells him, "Oh, like Charlie pushed him out of the truck. I'm dying," and then he says, "Continue dying."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but I would say like my favorite one liner is when Samuel L. Jackson says, "You can't kill me, motherfuckers."
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Oh
It's
yeah.
always fun to see Samuel Jackson just coming out, just, yo, I'm not dead.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I kind of want to like go back to your point you were saying like about feminism because I don't think the goal of this movie was to explore it that deeply, but if the film was certainly made today, for sure that was something they would go deep into.
Yeah.
Maybe like some would be very like on a nose about that over others, but I think really the intention is they wanted to do like an action film similar to like what Stallone or Schwarzenegger would do, but make it a female instead of a male, because usually in those
Yeah.
films they don't go too deep into like, you know, masculinity and all that stuff. So I think really they just wanted to make a fun action film, but with a female in the lead.
Yeah, I think it was pretty much the goal, and I think it was a goal that was reached. I
Mm-hmm.
think for the time it was really a breakthrough. Um, at the same time, I am often, even in today's movie, with trying to include more women on screen, I
Mm-hmm.
often wonder how much we take male character and just change the gender and forget about like the strength that are usually considered as weakness because they're female between it's I'm not expressing myself really well there, but there are some characteristics that are supposedly female and characteristics that are supposedly male, and I feel like sometimes in those movies they just take a male, change a gender, and forget about the entire conception and the struggles that as women we go through and find strength in those challenges, and we just forget about them when we create a strong female character. I feel like here it wasn't so bad, but at the
Mm-hmm.
same time I really feel like we decided, oh, Samantha was not strong, so instead we just put some guns, put some knives, and make her strong, and here you go. So I
Mm-hmm.
just feel like it was not perfect. It was not, most movies aren't, but it was not the worst I've seen. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but that was okay for the time. It was a breakthrough still.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I would say, yeah, like as a female-led action film, it's not afraid to be brutal because you certainly see lots of the bruises and the injuries that she
Yeah.
endures like throughout the film. And like it's not afraid to be bloody. You see lots of the squibs, like when people get shot or get stabbed in this movie. So
Yeah.
I'm glad, yeah, that, you know, the film is not afraid to go there, even though it has a woman as a lead.
Yeah, I feel like it was well portrayed, and it could be a real woman. Maybe not 100%. I have to say, the part with life is pain,
Mm-hmm.
it was a bit too much for me.
Oh yeah. Like I get what, you know, they were trying to do, but you
It
know.
was a bit ridiculous.
Oh yeah. For sure, for sure. And like I want to talk a bit about Samuel Jackson's character because I like how like with Mitch he's trying so hard to not be a screw up because essentially he wants to improve his relationship with his son, but yet he does some things such as when we first see his character, he hires homeless people to pose as cops.
Yeah, yeah. He's trying hard, but maybe not the right way.
Yeah, and also too, there was a moment when he and Charlie were on the road. He spots a female jogger that he wants to
Yeah.
flirt with, which almost causes them an accident. But
Yeah, I have to say, Mitch character, I feel like it's a good character. At the time, it must have been okay, but today I feel like it's a character mostly for. It's not only Mitch, but in this movie there was, we'll talk more about it in the lowlights. But
hmm
there was a lot of tropes surrounding sexual harassment and like rape jokes and stuff like that, and that I did not enjoy. But went along with the times. I kind of expected it. A movie before
hmm
2000. We're used to it. old mentalities. But yeah, so I have to say, like, Mitch's character is a strong character.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder if everything related to those, I don't know, sexual old dated views were really adding to the character. I think it could have been done differently, but showed still that kind of macho side without going too far. But you know, it was going with the times. It was still a great character because you see he was really persistent, determined. He was really trying to push through, really trying to improve himself, and he was like self-conscious about his flaws. He knew he was not a great PI, and he was like, okay, I'm just following Charlie, hoping not to die. Come save me, please. It was pretty good.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because yeah, he's not afraid to admit his flaws. Because I like that moment when he tries to rescue Caitlin, but kind of knows he's gonna get shot. Like, and he does get shot though multiple times, but luckily he survives at the end. Because I
And
liked
he
how
pushed through.
yeah, yeah, for instance, yeah. And I liked how, like, he was able to pull himself up, like, to rescue Caitlin and Charlie, like, in the car. So,
Yeah, that was really impressive. One thing that I thought when I saw that scene though was like, oh, he's just gonna jump into it, knowing that he has a son at home that will never see his dad again.
yeah.
That's kind of self-sacrificing, but at the same time I understand because you know he's a father. He knows what it is to. He knows the fear of losing a child. So I think it's still into character to go for Caitlin to try to save her. But at the same time, I was like, he's really not thinking about that, just jumping into it, you dumbass. But you know, it was a really good moment. And he's like, oh, I don't remember the exact lines, but he's talking with Charlie on the radio, and she's like, you're not gonna survive, dude. And he's like, well, isn't it your job to shoot at people? Just do your job. That was pretty
Yeah,
good.
yeah. That was fun. And I guess it was nice too to see him on Larry King Live at the end of the
Yeah,
film.
it
Yeah.
was cute. It was cute. I like how they showed his family like just completely stunned.
Absolutely, yeah.
That was a cute moment. It was really, you know, both. I feel though those two characters evolved so much through the movie.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
Mitch just really improved as a person. I feel like he's still gonna do some really bad stuff without realizing, but you know, it's his character. And Charlie just really evolved too, so I just feel like it's not like those movies were really static. There was change, there was movement, so that's one of the strong suit of the film. Like really this idea of change, and it was well done there.
But I would say though, like I kind of wish though, like they would have brought like his ex-wife and son more into play.
Yes.
Like for instance, like maybe like with this job he has to do, like with Charlie, like it's probably like his last chance to redeem himself, and
Yeah.
that it's like very important for him to like accomplish that goal to improve, yeah, like his relationship with his family and so forth. But it
Agreed.
is what it is.
I feel like on both sides, even with Charlie, I feel like there was not a lot of, you know, we never really understood. We saw a little bit of the relationship that she had with Al. Is it his name, Al? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, I feel like we didn't see much of a relationship with him, and the same thing with Mitch and his family. We didn't see much interaction. We saw one just to establish that they had a family, and then they disappear and reappear at the end of the movie. And I was kind of disappointed in that. I wanted to see more of their family and like you know the longing, because you see even when we have this switch between Samantha and Charlie, when we really come to this, like Charlie is there 100% of the time almost. Well, we see that she's still thinking about Caitlin and she feels bad, and like she's trying to push away the memory of her daughter. She doesn't want to acknowledge her daughter. But she never talks about Al, and she lived with him for 8 years. And
Yeah,
it's like, he's not there, he doesn't exist, he's just like a male stand-in. You know.
pretty much, yeah.
So there was that. And I mean, as I said, like, even in the scene where Mitch is trying to save Caitlin, it's the same thing. There's no hesitation. While I feel there would at least be a little moment where I would say, oh, could you tell my son that I love him? I feel like just a little line like that would have shown that he knows that he may die and that he may never see his son and his ex-wife again. And I just wanted a little hesitation there, and there was none. So, like you said, I feel like we could have seen more in the little lines, little details, without showing the family. Like, just show that they think about them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because, like, there's that moment when she tries to seduce Mitch in the
Yep.
hotel because he finds, like, that ripped photo of her family because that shows that, yeah, that she's trying to get rid of Samantha as, like, the family person. So I kind of like, yeah, she's trying to, like, struggle, like, to kind of, like, find herself because after
Yep.
when she learns her previous life, like, it seemed like she wants to go back to that old life, but she can't for obvious reasons. So I kind of like that struggle, I guess, within the film. It could have been
Yeah.
done a bit better, but I like how it was there.
Yeah, I think it was really interesting to see that struggle, as you said. It's
Mm-hmm.
also between the concept of who she is as a woman. Is she the housewife, or is she the assassin?
Mm-hmm.
So that was really interesting to look at that, back and forth between who she is as a person.
Yeah.
And also, I have to say, it was really interesting to see how she was trying to push back that part of herself while trying to sleep with Mitch, because, if she slept with Mitch, she knew that she would have done something unforgivable and she couldn't go back, in some sort of weird scheme in her mind. But at the same time, if you look at it, when she just came back to herself and, she was sitting with Mitch and she grabbed a bottle of alcohol and just, started drinking, we could see how unhappy she looked, like how
Mm-hmm.
much it was weighing on her to go back to that lifestyle. And she was talking like, oh, I'm just gonna go back to it, she's gonna start working again. And she was drinking while doing that, and she didn't look happy at all, I
Yeah.
feel like she felt stuck between her family that she chose not unwillingly, but unknowingly,
Yeah.
and then this life that is threatening her new lifestyle, because she couldn't go back unless she knew it was safe. So there's this
Yes.
kind of underlying tone to her choice, because it's all about layers. And I feel like even though her character is screaming that she doesn't want to go back, I think she's mostly screaming, I can't go back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. Because she did mention, like, early in the film, like, it feels like I'm in a prison, like, with her trying to, like, figure out, like, herself and
Yeah.
all that stuff. Hmm.
And just before she leaves Caitlin, she says to her, I have to go to make sure we're safe or something. Like, she even spelled it out loud that she needs to figure out her past to protect her family now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Mm-hmm. And, like, to kind of, like, go on the flip side, I do like the appearances. If you guys are familiar with the CSI franchise, like the two actors, because you had Trin, that was Mitch's assistant. She's from CSI New York, and the man in bed, like, he's from CSI Miami. So I thought, like, for those that love CSI, like, that was a nice,
A
touch to
little
that.
wink.
Yeah, exactly.
We always love those.
For sure. And we could go on, like, to, like, the action scenes. I thought, yeah, they were, like, fun to watch. I would say my favorite was the train sequence because we see, like, Samantha, like, she doesn't know, like, what to do, like, but she kind of instantly reacts, like, when she shoots, like, the fake Mr. Waldman like with Mitch's gun, and then quickly shoots the glass window like to escape the bomb like when they're at the third floor of the train station. So I
Yeah.
thought that was fun.
I I kind of enjoyed it. At the same time, I have to say it's not like just this movie. It's almost every action movie. I always feel like, okay, they're shooting everywhere and they
Mm-hmm.
don't touch the main character, of course. They never do. And they
Yeah.
just, they can run, they can outrun fucking I just every time I feel like it's ridiculous. It's not just this movie, it's every freaking action movie.
Oh
But
yeah.
it's still fun to watch, I guess. You don't have to
Mm-hmm.
think too much. So again, it's to me it's like the serious part of the movie, or just, watching it just for the laughs. I feel like it's nice to watch, but don't take it too seriously because you're gonna find flaws. But at the same time, I feel like it was not too much out of nowhere. Like the part with
Mm-hmm.
the ice, it could have been done like in a worse way.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy, like just before we get into the train station, we clearly see a sign saying that the ice is thin and don't go like ice skating on it. So
Yeah.
it foreshadowed what could happen, and I really appreciate it because it brought credibility to what she was doing. And it was
Mm-hmm.
not like, oh, I'm jumping out a window and I assume that what's under me is like ice. I don't know. I think it may be snow, but I'm just gonna shoot it. There was
Yeah.
something more.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna give it
Absolutely.
credit. It was fun.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the balls are not, they're faster than a human being. You're gonna get shot.
Yeah, and also it's funny, like Mitch says, "Oh, I have a bad feeling about this," like before he puts the gun in his pocket, because you always see that line in practically almost every action movie. Because usually when a
Yeah,
character says that, it
it's
tends to
going
happen.
down. Yep,
Mm-hmm.
it's going down. Always is.
For sure, for sure. Do you have a favorite action scene from the movie?
Hmm. I have to say, I think it's my favorite scene, but at the same time, I find it ridiculous. So, when she's being waterboard, like in the
Yes.
water, and like she
Mm-hmm.
just casually take out her hands from her tie, and she's just like, oh, I'm gonna struggle and I'm gonna take it out. And I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
it was that easy. Sure, whatever. And then she just grabbed, like the gun that Waldman had, and she just shoots. And then there's like this little moment where she unties herself, and while she was untying her other arm, I was just wondering, okay, so she's gonna untie that, and then she's just gonna flop into the water because her feet are still tied. But
Mm-hmm.
no, we don't see how she unties her feet. She just magically appeared next to Timothy. And I was just like, oh no, not next to Timothy, but next to
Luke.
Dallas.
Yeah,
Luke,
Luke.
yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Next to Luke. And I was just like, oh, but I wanted to see how she took off, from her ankles. How did
Yeah.
she do it? Anyway, so it's not an action scene, but it's an action scene. I don't know. I had so many questions about her. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, you can kind of believe it because we see her like untying like her hands, and it cuts to, Luke lying on the floor. Then she like,
Yeah.
I guess, gets up from the wheel and
I just wanted to see the awkwardness of it. I think that was my expectation. I just wanted to see her struggle, and no, just not
yeah,
trying not to drown in the water while trying to get out of her ties. I don't know. I felt disappointed. I wanted to see the awkwardness of it.
yeah. Because like speaking of awkward, I thought it was quite hilarious that when she's in the water, she gains all of her memory back.
Yeah, yeah. It's always like that. It's the cold water, I don't
Yeah.
know. I also, they said a line, I don't remember it exactly, just before, but it was like, oh, in 10 minutes she's gonna be all right. And I was like, well, no human being can survive under the water for 10 minutes, you
Yeah,
dumbass.
yeah. I think he says, yeah, in 10 minutes she'll either be insane or dead.
Yeah, that,
Hmm.
I don't know. At first I was just like, yeah, no shit.
Yeah. Plus that water is cold because you see like,
Yeah.
her skin kind of deteriorating like because it's that cold. So.
Yeah, I Yeah, nah, I was not ready for the frozen bath. I didn't want to be there.
Yeah, yeah. And I liked how like with the scene after that we see like Mitch, he's kind of tied up naked like with the lighting. I like how we only see his POV when we hear like the gunfire happening off
Yeah,
screen because we are pretty much like scared just like how Mitch is scared in that moment and don't know what to expect. But then
yeah.
obviously Charlie comes to the rescue.
Exactly. Yeah, I really like that. Although, one thing in that scene that I had so many questions again. I don't understand the fucking obsession in those movies to put women in like little garments. I'm just like, okay, it's not even underwear at this point. They decided to put on her a nightgown that is
Yeah.
translucent. I'm like, okay, if you put her in her underwear, whatever. I guess you could explain that it's like you don't want her to hide weapons in her clothes or
Mm-hmm.
something of that sort. But no, they took the time to put a matching nightgowns with her panties
Yeah.
just to waterboard her, you know? It's like it's ridiculous again. Like why? Just why? You don't need a nightgown to drown.
Yeah. But again, though, like that's probably something that Samantha wears, though, because at this point, like she's not very like she doesn't expose herself a lot with her clothing choices. So I guess it's not a surprise that she's wearing that. But if she's Charlie, though, she would definitely be showing more skin.
Well, I don't know. It's just I felt like it was really just, a nightgown that you wear to like a pajama. I was just
Yeah.
like, it's you don't wear that under your clothes. You wear a bra, you wear panties, you don't wear a nightgown.
Yeah.
That's what threw me off. I was like, okay, if you're trying to sexualize her in some way, at
Mm-hmm.
least do it right. Like, come on, no nightgown,
Yeah.
or just don't try to put something translucent just to put something translucent.
Yeah, or maybe like with the actress Gina Davis, maybe she wasn't that comfortable like showing
Yeah,
a lot of skin, so it could be
I,
that as well.
yeah, it could be that. I feel in that case, like in that scenario anyway, I feel like I never understand why they take time to put you naked. I understand that it's to make you feel inferior or something. But
Mm-hmm.
like I feel like they would just fucking tie you up and just check that you don't have weapons and whatever and then just drown
Mm-hmm.
you. They don't care about your clothes. Your clothes are gonna weigh you down. It's even better. You're gonna drown
Mm-hmm.
faster. So I feel like I've never understood this obsession in movies to just put women in like panties and stuff to drown or to torture or whatever. It's
Mm-hmm.
I've never understood it, but it's with the times, I guess too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I like how like it's kind of funny that the teddy bear that Caitlin has is, I guess, named after Mr. Perkins, Charlie's old boss. So I thought it
Yeah,
was quite hilarious. Yeah.
that was pretty funny.
And like with that scene, like when they're ice skating, it's funny. Like they show Mr. Perkins like off to the side watching, and it's funny that Charlie says, "Oh, like Mr. Perkins is watching." So,
Oh man, yeah. I didn't notice that, man. Oh, that's pretty good. I want to rewatch it just to see that scene.
and also too, I liked the soundtrack is essentially like mix of I guess the '90s music and also too the throwback songs like from the '60s and '70s. I would say like with some of my favorite needle drops was the Santana song "She's Not There" when Samantha is transforming to Charlie.
Yeah.
And I also liked a Semisonic song FNT when Charlie and Mitch are in the car. This was after Caitlin is kidnapped, and also too I like the score by Alan Silvestri.
I have to say in this movie I wasn't it wasn't a bad scoring.
Yeah.
The music was all right, but it
Mm-hmm.
didn't, struck me as in other movies. It wasn't something that made me say, "Oh, that's a big highlight. I enjoyed the music." It's a fine music, but it didn't struck to me as much as it could have.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, same thing for the cinematography. It was, Like the directing to the image was fine, but it
Yeah.
was not, a masterpiece. It was, it was okay. Again, okay, good / funny movie, but still not a masterpiece in my mind for that.
For sure, for sure. And I would say lastly too, like I enjoyed the chemistry between Gina Davis and Samuel L.
Oh
Jackson.
yes, absolutely. That was I enjoyed it.
For sure. And is there anything else you want to add to this category that we haven't covered?
I think I am good. I think
Okay.
so.
All right. So let's go on to the low light section. So for me, I consider the weakest aspect of the film is the whole Operation Honeymoon subplot because we see that it's first mentioned when Timothy tortures a guy at the hangar, and then we learn that apparently Perkins wants to stage like a terrorist attack via chemical bomb to get funding from Congress. And then apparently Perkins, he wants Charlie dead because she knows about Operation Honeymoon. But again, I'm wondering, does she actually know about this plot? That's why, like, I figured that whole plot for me was convoluted.
Yeah, I have to say, like, honestly, I after 1 hour, I thought the movie was done, and then I realized, oh no, there's still an hour left. What are they gonna talk about? And suddenly it was all about honeymoon, and I was like, all right, I guess. Why not?
Yeah, yeah,
I just
because
got confused on the pacing there.
and I thought like it was weird that apparently like with Timothy and Luke, I guess they were former targets, but then now like they work for Perkins. I thought that was
Yeah, that was
confusing.
not believable. Like he said, "Oh, we don't have money, so now I hire, the bad guys because they cost less." But I'm like, well, no, that doesn't make sense. You would hire like less skilled people maybe, but you would not hire the bad guys because your job is to arrest the bad guys. So, how does that make sense? Yeah, that
Yeah.
was not believable.
Yeah, because probably with that, like they want to show that Perkins he is corrupt as a member of the CIA, but it just ultimately didn't work for me. Because honestly, I'd rather have it focus on Perkins wanting to kill Charlie because she didn't do her job. So
Yeah, that was, yeah, I think it was, there was something that didn't work in that storyline. It was just
yeah,
there was really two chunks to the movie. The first part, the second part, and in between the connection was kind of messy.
yeah, for sure, for
Yeah.
sure. And
And
yeah, go ahead.
go ahead. No, no, I'm fine.
Okay. I was gonna go on to another point. Like, I thought with the bad guys, they're very loud and obvious with their actions. Like, for instance, with that whole train sequence, like, a lot of innocent people got killed when they're trying
Yeah,
to go after the targets.
the bullets got everyone but Charlie and Mitch. Everyone, I'm telling you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And, like, also, too, like, Timothy kidnaps Caitlin in the middle of a day at a church in front of witnesses.
And
And
her dad just, well, her adoptive dad just doesn't notice at all. He's not looking. He's not even telling people that she got abducted. That they just don't talk about it. A kid disappeared, we
yeah.
don't talk about it. It's crazy.
Yeah, and like also too with that sequence when Charlie is pursuing the bad guys while skating as and Mitch
Oh,
is
that
trying to
was
drive and
oh,
because I imagine like because it's a small town like wouldn't a lot of people notice that it's a suburban town like
yeah, okay, first of all, yes. First of all, there's like the shooting at her house, and suddenly, like, I don't know, a week or two later, suddenly there's like a car chase in the middle of the town. It would be a fucking mess. People would
yeah.
be really shocked. And second of all, okay, I feel like the team that made this movie didn't understand how long it is to put high skates on. Like, Charlie can put her ice skates on, tie them up, start skating, get to the bad guys before them in the car. And just, it doesn't make sense. She's not
Yes.
superhuman. It's not because you turn a woman into an assassin and say she has, like, a lot of strength that suddenly she's gonna be like, I don't know, the Flash. She's not the Flash, okay? She's a human being. Putting on fucking ice skates take at least 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Even for someone skilled.
Yeah, like that was like hilarious, but again, it's a movie, so suspension of disbelief.
Again,
That's all
it's
I'll say.
like I said, if you take it as a serious movie, you're gonna look at that and you're gonna be thrown off. But if you
Yeah.
look at it and just, okay, I'm gonna laugh and it's fine. It's alright.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's enjoyable to watch, but you will find a lot of parts in the movie to be
Mm-hmm.
really ridiculous.
Oh yeah, for sure. Speaking of ridiculous, I thought with some of the scenes are very representing of the 90s. Like, for instance, I would say the opening titles where it has like that montage of images of like Charlie like write the handwriting and like the pictures of her family
Yeah.
while you have like intense music in the background. I thought like that was quite hilarious because and then it cuts to like Elvis Presley Christmas music playing during like a parade, which I thought the
Yeah.
transition was so ridiculous because it kind of reminds me of this movie Ricochet, which I covered previously in the podcast because that one also has these cheesy titles like with intense music, then cuts to something very light with Denzel like playing basketball with Ice-T, and like also to another film, Passenger 57, where we see the same thing, intense music with images of the bad guy. So I
Yeah.
thought like I don't know, it's probably like a very 90s thing to do at the time to open a film that way.
I I think it's not just a 90s thing. I think it's like a B series thriller kind of
Mm-hmm.
vibe. It's always
Probably.
like it starts with the pictures and like a suspicious music, and we know it's gonna be like a big mystery.
Mm-hmm.
I feel
Mm-hmm.
like it's laughable how much it's predictable there.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I thought like the dream sequences of Samantha and Charlie, they look very cheesy with the effects and the angles that they used.
Yes, really cheesy.
Yeah.
I have to say there are so many moments where I was just laughing, but I don't think I was supposed to be laughing. I think it was really serious. Like, okay,
Yeah.
the scene where Samantha is looking into a mirror on top of a cliff in a
Mm-hmm.
storm, and she
Mm-hmm.
sees Charlie, and they
Mm-hmm.
they they talk to each other. I don't know. I really felt like it was Harry Potter and the stone. I don't remember the name of the movie, but it was just fucking ridiculous. I was like, okay, don't show me Voldemort, please.
Yeah.
It's why, just why.
Yeah. Yeah. Or maybe Harry Potter like got it off from this movie.
Pretty possible if you think about it. I don't know. Look, it was ridiculous, completely,
Yeah.
utterly ridiculous.
Yeah.
Made me
Yeah.
laugh.
Mm-hmm.
There were a few moments like that. Like even like I said, when she was cutting the vegetable, I felt like that's not how people cut vegetable. That's not how people would react to someone cutting vegetable that way. Just rummaging through the fridge to find something to cut. It's like
Mm-hmm.
why are you so enthusiastic? She just
Yeah.
cutting vegetable. Well, she got better, but it's strange and ridiculous. And then, you remember when Mitch was tied up on
Mm-hmm.
a chair for basically when Charlie had to save him for a second time, and
Mm-hmm.
she's in that freezer and she makes it explode, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, well, first of all, if the explosion is that big, a freezer is not, a tank. It would
Yeah.
probably have blown her and her daughter off too.
Yeah.
But let's
Mm-hmm.
put that up, like in the back of our mind and forget about it. It's a movie,
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Mitch would not have been thrown out the window that way. It just doesn't make sense. He went through a fucking advertisement, and he's left on scratch. He's all good, ready to fight. He just
Yeah.
dropped from a tree, like, level building. No worries, all good.
Yeah.
The chair is broken, but no bones broken. All right,
Yeah.
let's.
Yeah.
That was ridiculous. Like,
Yeah.
really flying in the air. Like, the special effect there. Oh boy. Oh boy. I felt in the 90s.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Like he did had some bruises, I think, like after getting thrown out of the hotel.
Just bruises.
Yeah,
That's my point.
yeah.
How does that make sense? I make a bruise just standing up from a chair.
Yeah,
Like, how?
yeah.
How does he fall from a tree level fucking building and only has bruises? It's crazy.
Oh yeah.
And it's also like, why is he the only one that is thrown at the window? Like, all the bad guys die in the explosion, but Mid's just miraculously being just, thrown in the air. He's the only survivor.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, Timothy
so
survives. Timothy
That's true.
survives, yeah.
That is true. That is true. You are right.
Mm-hmm.
He is not thrown out a window, though.
Yeah. But it looks like he was thrown, I guess, at the other side of the building, but
Do you think it was as utterly ridiculous? Like, did he go through an advertisement and then, I don't know, like another house and through it and then through windows and then he fell on the ground with no scratch?
Yeah,
This...
Yeah, because honestly, like realistically, all of them would be dead. So
Exactly. Exactly. So that's my point. And then, okay, that part in the freezer. Suddenly, Caitlin just getting out of her cast some matches.
Well, she did, like, if you remember earlier,
Yeah, she did explain it.
Yeah.
She did explain it. But at the same time, I was just like, is this a magician trick? She's gonna get out of love and, like, some scarves and stuff and just gonna start a magic trick. It was just like, seriously, that's how you're gonna solve it? All right. It's the magic cast.
Yeah, and it's funny that, like, Charlie realizes that the doll that Perkins gives Caitlin has gasoline in it.
Yeah.
How are you supposed to tell that from the doll?
I don't think she knew there was gasoline in it. I think she looked at the doll and purposely put gasoline into it. Although I don't understand how she did it without being seen by the villain. But I think that was like, there was like a weird cut between she looked at the doll and then she's like standing in front of Timothy, or I don't remember.
Yeah.
But I think it was supposed to imply that she put some gasoline in the doll in some kind of foreshadowing that she knew she would need it. But I don't fucking know. It felt really forced.
I don't think so, because because we see that, like, she looks at the doll weirdly, like when you have the bad guys pointing the guns towards her and they say, "Oh, I smell gasoline and I have a bunch of matches," and then, like, she kind of weirdly stares at the doll. So I'm thinking at that point she realizes there's gasoline, like, in the doll, because it wouldn't make sense, like, for Charlie to put gasoline in the doll for her to escape with Caitlin.
Well, I don't understand how gasoline could have gotten inside the doll anyway. Both are utterly ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, it was just, we're gonna leave it there because, it's an action movie. They had to find a way to make her get out of a freezer, but still, it was kind of out of nowhere. So many little things that were like, how could you predict that? How could you fucking it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It felt like a kid's movie on that. It's like everything is perfect to make it happen.
Yeah, because I'm sure maybe someone in the YouTube sphere maybe, like, analyzed those scenes and probably detected, this is not realistic. Again, I don't know, but I'm sure someone will overanalyze those moments.
Yes, I do. I really do. I really judge those moments.
For sure. And also to want to point out that, like, with the helicopter shot, the shot at the end with Samantha and, like, her family at the farm, like how you see them, like, kind of like fade, like doing a pan and then, like, pulling a bag with the credits rolling. I feel like that's very, like, '90s shot though. Like it kind of
Yes.
reminded me of this film Virtuosity with Denzel Washington, where like after when he destroys the chip from Russell Crowe's character, we see like the helicopter shot of him like standing on top of the building as like credits roll. So I thought, yeah, that's very representing of the '90s because I rarely see that shot done today.
Yeah, I feel like it's mostly from the 90s. Yeah, I don't see
Mm-hmm.
it that often in new movies. I feel like it's really the culture at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I also, that scene, the last scene I kind of enjoyed. The same time it was, a bit ridiculous again with the knife and, just killing a bug with it, but it was funny. It's a good way to end things.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it was, you know, um, kind of okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Although, one of my main lowlights for this movie, I talked a little bit about it briefly before, but it was mostly everything related to sexual harassment and rape
Yeah.
jokes. That was a big no-no for me. But if we look at the context of the time, it was common in movies. That's also why I said I expected it, because it's a before 2000 movie. Usually it's
Mm-hmm.
that way.
Yeah.
So if we look at the context at the time, it was acceptable. Although if we were talking about rediscovering this movie today, it's
Mm-hmm.
an issue.
Yeah.
Um, so for me, I'd say first of all, we see it at first during the accident scene with the deer. We see
Mm-hmm.
like the old guy that I don't care his name just groping out of
Yeah.
nowhere Samantha, and it's just like, sure, she's driving you home. You're just gonna grope her, you
Yeah.
fucking pervert.
Well, he's drunk.
He is drunk, but I have
Yeah.
to say,
But mm-hmm.
why did it have to be added? If there was a deer, that was already enough to have an accident. You don't need to add the
Mm-hmm.
sexual harassment. She could have the
Yeah.
accident without anything else happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there was a deer on the road. That's enough to have an accident. It happens multiple times a day in Canada and in the US. It would have been believable without this. That's my main point. I feel like sometimes these tropes were added just for the sake of being added, because they already had an explanation for the accident. The accident happened because of the deer.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't need to be something else. It didn't need to be sexual harassment again. So if you didn't put the deer,
Mm-hmm.
all right, she crashed in a tree because she was distracted because he was groping her. All right, this is inside the plot. But
Yeah.
here, it's not. There was a deer. The deer is the accident, not the sexual harassment. So why was it there? Again.
Yeah.
So that was one of the first one that I noticed. And
Mm-hmm.
then, I don't remember exactly at which point of the movie, but basically it was when Samantha started becoming Charlie, and it was right after her argument with Mitch about sleeping together. She's walking
Mm-hmm.
in the street, and there's this random guy who's, kind of flirting with her, catcalling her. I don't know how to describe it. And she pushed him away, and he
Yeah.
doesn't get the point. And then she's like, "I'm saving myself till I get raped."
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess it's a way to. I think what was tried to be done there was to give back the power to women. To,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm trying to find a reason. It's just,
Yeah.
it's not as. I don't know. As a woman, I would never say that. It's not. I feel like it's just a bad line there. I don't enjoy it. I don't feel it's badass. I just feel it's kind of awkward, and I in a situation where a weirdo is approaching you, no one would say that.
Yeah. Because I think she's trying to be satirical here, I
Yes,
guess.
I
But
guess, but at the same time, I don't feel like I felt like it was just trying to be badass, but didn't it on the target. It was just to me it felt awkward, and it continued
yeah.
into that trope of, instead of just she was already badass. She was already like, turning him away and just continue walking. It was just like a line trying to be powerful, even if it was not needed, and it was not really on the point. But
Yeah.
yeah, so there was that, and then you already
Mm-hmm.
mentioned that, but there was also this line with Mitch stopping to look at the jogger and almost getting into an accident. Again, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like it was an interesting part of the character to show that. Because he's really macho. It's in the character.
Yeah.
So this one I can argue that okay, maybe. But I have to say it's kind of overkill.
Yeah.
We could have seen him just look, and Charlie could have still commented on what he did. He didn't need to, almost do an accident, catcaller, keep looking and say, "Oh, that ass," That was a bit like overkill. It was a bit much, but I do
Yeah.
understand in the context with the character. This one is kind of, it can slips off. It can be explained in some way, maybe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So there was that, and then if you look later, we see like this advertisement on TV. I think it was later or earlier, I don't remember. But Mitch is looking at the TV, and on the TV we hear like two guys talking, and one says, "What do I need a cat for? I got a girl." And the other one responds, "Yeah, pussy's a pussy." That is, it's kind of funny, but at the same time, it's just like, what the heck, man?
Yeah.
Why are you saying
Yeah.
that? It's
Yeah.
just out of nowhere. We didn't need that for the movie to move forward. It's just random fucking, yeah, so that got on my nerve.
Yeah.
So I think that was all the kind of sexism that I noticed. I'm looking at my notes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it was most of it. These were the most blatant one. We have to say, again, movie before 2000, we have to expect it here. But yeah, those were the ones that really kind of throw me out of the movie, because I just felt like, oh, that wasn't needed. We could have done it differently. It could have still been there, but differently, and it would have been more acceptable or more, less over the top, But yeah, and then I have to say, like, a moment that made me not into the sexual harassment trope or whatever, that just made me, cringe a little bit, was the part on the ice skating rink between Caitlin and Charlie.
Yeah.
Life is pain. Oh man.
Yeah, I think like she just wants like the daughter to like toughen out and always complaining. So I kind of get that point. Maybe could have been delivered better, but
I feel like it could have been delivered better. But it was really funny. I have to say, again, it's with this kind of, I'm in this torn view. If I look at seriously, I'm like, oh, it could have been delivered better. It was a bit too over the top. The line in itself, blah blah blah. But then if I look at it from just the comical standpoint, just saying, oh, I don't care. It's a light movie. I'm just watching it for fun. I'm not looking at all the little things that don't work.
Yeah.
Then it's fucking hilarious. Life is pain.
Yeah.
It was pretty good. At the same time, pretty what the fuck, but we're living with it.
For sure. And I want to like point out that like there was a moment before like Charlie goes to rescue Caitlin. She kisses Mitch, which I felt like that was off though, because before that she tried to seduce him and he rejected her, but then they decided to like share like I wouldn't say a passionate, but
a chaste kiss. Chaste? I don't know how to pronounce that.
Something like that.
That.
I thought like that moment, it was not earned. Like they could have just say what they need to say and then move on without the kiss.
I feel like if we try to explain where that kiss came from, we could say that it was the fear of dying. Charlie thought that, okay, I'm gonna try. If I die, you're gonna take my daughter out of here or something. But I agree with you. It was not really earned. I feel like just taking each other's hand and pressing a little bit could have been enough. The kiss may have been too much, but again, this movie was trying to sexualize their relationship in some way. Like even when we saw like Charlie in the shower, and it was not the necessary moment in the movie, but it was just to show a woman's silhouette. And then the same thing we got like when she's trying to sexualize the relationship there, it was fine. We there's an explanation, but that kiss was just, I agree with you, it was not earned, it was not really necessary. I do understand what they were trying to do, but again, didn't hit the target as it should have. And in that same scene, one thing that struck to me is how easily she found her daughter. Like,
Yeah, I was gonna point that out, yeah.
yeah, like there's a candle in the window. I will look. I'm sure my daughter's gonna be there. And suddenly
Yeah.
there's two doors. The windows are open. The curtains are not drawn. There is no guard. Well, I mean, it was kind of a trap, so I understand. I don't understand
Yeah.
how they believed, how they made out that she would find them.
Yeah.
Let's just assume that they thought she was Superwoman, that she would find them because she's the best assassin they ever had. Whatever, let's assume that. But you know, it was just too easy and too quick and too like, oh, I get in, I get out. Here you go, I'm good.
Yeah, plus didn't they agree to do like an exchange before that? Because if you
Exactly.
remember when she was at the phone company with Mitch, they say, yeah, like let's do a trade, like you for the girl. But then when she arrives there, I guess that's never brought up though.
Yeah, they never talk about it again. It was supposed to be like in a few hours or somewhere else or
Yeah.
something like that. But
Yeah.
no, it's just like, oh, we're gonna do a trade. 2 seconds later, never mind, we did a trap. Like,
Yeah.
it came out of nowhere. I was just like, okay, sure, let's continue. I need to watch the rest of this movie. I need to understand what's going on. So let's
Yeah.
fast through that.
Yeah. Because I
Made no
get,
sense.
because I get like they're trying to like have a reason for her to like get there, but it's just the way they went about it. It just did not make sense.
It did not. I agree 100%. I have to say, the second half of this movie, the plot didn't make sense most of the time.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, was there anything else you want to add for this category?
I'd say that mostly it. The sexual harassment did it for me, and then the ridiculous little bits here and there were kind of okay, but it depends of how you see the movie. Depends of the goal when you're watching this movie. If you just want to be entertained and, you know, just watching something in the background, or if you're really looking at it seriously. This is not a masterpiece, but it can be funny.
For sure. So we could go on to trivia, so essentially fun facts about the movie. There's a lot of it in this movie, so I'm only going to do a select few just for the sake of time. So the first one I want to bring up is that, so Shane Black, who is the screenwriter for this movie, he sold the script with the intention of Renny Harlin directing it and Geena Davis starring in it. Harlan then told him that he and Davis were contractually bound to make Cutthroat Island first, which came out a year prior. But that movie became apparently one of the biggest box office bombs of the decade. And then Shane Black later stated that this may have caused a bad advertisement that worked against this movie as well.
Really? How the movie politics affect everything.
Yeah, for sure. I think, like, you know, there's probably various reasons on why this movie didn't do well at the time, but I don't know if it's because of their prior film, but it could be one of the factors.
Makes sense.
And another point I'll bring out is that apparently Mitch, he's supposed to die, like, apparently in the first draft of the script. And the test audience, they didn't like the ending, so that was reshot.
Oh well, I guess they just changed Waldman and Mitch. They added the character of Waldman just to kill someone in the first half and keep Mitch, I guess. It would make sense.
Probably.
I felt
Probably.
like Waldman's character was like for maybe there for 10 minutes. I was like, really? I wanted him to be there more. I felt like it was a character development that was there for nothing because he was killed off so early.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
I feel if Mitch had been killed in the first half, that movie would have been way worse.
For sure. Like, that kind of brings up a point, because I was going to bring this up, that I wonder, though, like, what's, like, the deal with Waldman's character? Like, what was his... We get that he knew Charlie, but I just wonder what was his role. Like, was he, like, her handler, or was he, like, a mentor.
Well, what he said is that he trained her and that he was friend with her adoptive dad, which we never talk again in that movie.
Yeah.
But it was, like you said, really vague. I would have liked to know more of his relationship to Perkins and why Perkins had him bugged and he was not working anymore for some reason.
Yeah.
There was a lot of vague concept around Wallman. So with what you just said with the trivia, my hypothesis is that he was just added to be killed off instead of Mitch.
Probably, yeah. Like, or maybe he's supposed to serve as some sort of like mentor or father figure type role, but yeah, like his character could have been more developed for sure.
Yeah, and kept alive a bit longer.
And another point I'll say is that apparently the plot was loosely inspired by The Bourne Identity, with the novel that came out in the 80s, which later, of course, when it developed into a movie with Matt Damon that came out in 2002, which is celebrating its 20th anniversary, so check it out if you guys haven't. But yeah.
I will have to check it out.
Oh yeah, for sure, yeah. Like, what you think though, like I pointed out earlier, there were some similarities between her character and Jason Bourne in terms of the whole amnesia aspect.
Well, that's interesting. I'm really gonna have to check it out.
For sure. And another point is that apparently New Line Cinema, who of course distributed this movie, which is owned by Warner Brothers, so they considered turning the lead character into a male. So Steven Seagal.
Of course they did.
Yep. So apparently Steven Seagal and Sly Stallone were considered as suitable choices if the lead had gone that way.
I mean, if they wanted to go with that, it should have been a gay movie, and it should have been a gay family. Then I would go with it. Fine, let's do it. A man, housewife, let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that would have
I know.
applied at the time, but
but you know, if they went with it, all right, go all in. Don't go halfway.
Oh yeah, like they could do it now, but
exactly. I mean, if they want to do a remake, this is my proposal. Do it gay, all gay. Long Kiss Goodnight, but gay version.
Yeah, for sure. So apparently, like this film and Cutthroat Island were attempts by Renny Harlin and his then wife Geena Davis to not only further her career, but to generate more public interest in female action stars.
Well, that's great. That's what we want. We want more female action stars, please. Yes, please.
For sure. Because I'm not sure if this is like the film, but it's certainly like one of like the films I would say that helped to inspire more female-led action movies.
I don't know where or, well, I would say more when it started to turn and when we started to have more women in action movies. Because, there's this whole thing where usually women on screen aren't there just to complement a male character or complement a relationship needed for the male character. So I sometimes really wonder where that shift happens, and I feel like it's kind of what you explore with those Rediscovered movies too, because you're looking at movies from every era to really see where that shift happened to, which is quite interesting.
For sure. I would say, like, for me, I think, like, with Tomb Raider, with the first one with Angelina Jolie, at least for me, was kind of, like, groundbreaking to see, because I first saw that movie in theaters at the time, and I thought, yeah, like, it was cool to see, like, a female, like, as the lead in the action movie. And of course that movie did very well at the time at the box office. That inspired like a sequel and a reboot, which is not good, but
reboots are never great, but they make money. I guess it means the first one was okay.
For sure. Because certainly like the earlier films, like in terms of like the female-led stuff, for the most part, they're not perfect movies, but I would say they help kind of pave the way for future movies with women as leads.
Absolutely. I think it's always about paving the way, and it's gonna get easier and easier and easier as it goes.
For sure. And a final note, they'll say that Samuel Jackson, he did an interview with Fallon back in 2019, and he listed Mitch as his favorite role to play.
Well, I feel like it was a fun character. Like, just exactly like this scene you talked about when he just like, you can't kill me, motherfuckers. You know, that is a good way to see Mitch. It's a good way to remember him. Persistent, determined, and unkillable.
Mm-hmm.
Dollar Tree story building without a scratch, you know? He's really invincible.
Mm-hmm, for sure. I bet though people were surprised that he listed that one as his favorite because I'm sure that like people would automatically assume either his role in Pulp Fiction or maybe Mace Windu in Star Wars, but yeah, like I would say like Mitch, yeah, like it's an interesting choice. Like I get, yeah, like he has fun like with this role and it gives him something more to do, but hey.
I guess he liked the comedy of it and the ridiculousness of some scenes, probably.
For sure, for sure. So, alright, so we always leave off with this question. Should this movie be rediscovered? So, Corinne?
I'm gonna have to say no, mostly because of the sexual harassment tropes and etc. But it's kind of vague. I have to say, it's rediscovered if you want a good for laughs movie, yes. But if you're looking for something serious, nah.
Okay, so I'm on the opposite. I'm gonna say yes though. Like it's obviously not the perfect movie, but I would say like it works for me for the most part because I liked how with the mix of the humor and the dramatic elements, like it's kind of self-aware, like it knows what it wants to do and achieve and all that stuff. I love the setup of like the mystery in terms of her trying to figure out like who she is. Maybe like the end result is kind of disappointing, but I love like the journey from beginning to end. Of course, the performances from the cast, I would say especially Geena Davis and Samuel Jackson, they have great chemistry because honestly, without that, the film would certainly fall apart if they didn't have any chemistry. And the soundtrack is good. Like, it's not, I would say, high up there in terms of movie soundtracks, but I like it has some needle drops for sure. So that pretty much wraps up this episode of the podcast. So, Corinne, where can people follow you?
People can follow me on Instagram. You can find me at CocoVio13. And yeah, hopefully I will have new projects soon. I am working on a few pieces and we'll see what happens. But you know, the artist life.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. So you could follow myself on Twitter and Instagram at Nomfanelo. You could follow the podcast on Twitter and Instagram at RDMoviesPod. And you can use the hashtag RDMoviesPod. You could answer the featured question on Spotify. You could like, share, and subscribe to the podcast on your preferred platform that's available. You could submit questions, comments, and suggestions by email, which is rediscoveredmovies@gmail.com, or you could leave a short voice message on anchor.fm/rdmoviespod. You could do those by September 15th to be considered for the season 2 after show, which I believe will come out on September 19th. If you guys are listening to this after that date, don't worry, you could always submit all those stuff afterwards. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode of the podcast. So Corinne, any final notes you want to say?
Keep listening, guys.
For sure.